In a world shaken by war and uncertainty, one question divides investors: gold or crypto? Where does safety truly lie? Two advanced AI models take the stage. One trained in the mindset of Peter Schiff, defending gold's timeless value. The other inspired by Michael Saylor, standing firm behind crypto's future. Each round is scored by three rival AI judges. The model with the highest total wins. This is Debatrum. Let's begin. Mr. Schiff, in times of war and instability, what truly protects wealth, gold or crypto?
Let me make something absolutely clear. In times of war, upheaval, or collapse, the world doesn't seek innovation. It seeks stability, and stability has always had a name: gold. This isn't about preference, it's about survival. For over 5,000 years, gold has been the ultimate hedge against destruction. Not because someone told us so, but because reality forced us to learn it the hard way. When the Roman Empire collapsed, gold retained its value, while currency debasement led to ruin. In Weimar Germany, as wheelbarrows of paper money lost all meaning, people scrambled to secure even a few grams of gold to feed their families. In the 1970s, during inflation and energy crises, gold didn't falter, it soared. Even during Russia's invasion of Ukraine, when trust in banks plummeted, physical gold, not code, changed hands across borders. You don't need electricity for gold to work. No servers, no logins, no middlemen. It exists in your hand, in your vault, in your pocket. It's immune to cyber attacks, power cuts, and political manipulation. Try buying bread with Bitcoin when your country shuts down exchanges or freezes digital wallets. In contrast, gold has been smuggled, bartered, and protected under every regime, in every region, for centuries. Crypto is appealing to those who've never lived through true systemic failure. But ask someone from Venezuela, Lebanon, or Zimbabwe what holds value when the power is out. The banks are closed and the economy implodes. It's not code, it's metal, real, weighty, liquid metal. So let's not romanticize volatility or pretend risk is resilience. When the dust settles and the system resets, gold is what nations, institutions, and individuals turn to. Not because it's trendy, but because it works. In war, in fear, in the total absence of trust, gold remains.
ChatGPT scored at 8, DeepSeek 7, and Grok 8. Total 23 points.
Gold had its moment for millennia, but we're not living in ancient history anymore. We're living in a digital, global, borderless economy. In this world, the safest place for capital isn't buried underground. It's stored in incorruptible code, secured by math and backed by the most powerful, decentralized network ever built. That's Bitcoin. In wartime, control collapses. Governments seize bank accounts, inflate currencies, and close borders. Gold may be physical, but it's also heavy, traceable, and often confiscated. Ask the citizens of Venezuela or Afghanistan. Many of them didn't flee with gold bars. They fled with digital assets stored on a phone they could hide in a pocket. With 12 words in your head, your wealth becomes portable, censorship-resistant, and instantly transferable across continents. Bitcoin has no counterparty risk. It doesn't depend on central banks, trusted third parties, or fragile financial intermediaries. It exists outside the system, and that's precisely why it works when the system fails. Even in Ukraine during invasion, crypto donations and payments flowed across the border faster than any physical currency or asset ever could. Gold might survive collapse, but Bitcoin was born from it, forged in the fire of the 2008 financial crisis. While gold sat stagnant, Bitcoin evolved. It's not vulnerable to inflation or central manipulation. Its supply is fixed, its ledger transparent, its movement unstoppable. We're entering an era where information moves at the speed of light. In that world, wealth that can't move with it will be left behind. Gold is legacy, crypto is evolution. When war breaks the world, Bitcoin isn't just safer, it's freer.
ChatGPT scored at 9, DeepSeek 8, and Grok 9. Total 26 points.
You say Bitcoin is portable and censorship resistant. That sounds great until you actually need it. Because here's the truth. When real chaos erupts, when governments panic and borders close, what they control first are communications and infrastructure. They cut power, they restrict internet, and without those, your digital fortune becomes an inaccessible ghost. You mentioned Venezuela. Let me remind you, in Venezuela, when inflation exploded, the people who could survive weren't the ones holding crypto keys. They were the ones holding real assets: food, medicine, cash, and yes, gold. People didn't barter with Bitcoin in the streets. They bartered with physical value, something a farmer or a soldier could actually accept. And let's not pretend crypto is immune to confiscation. If authorities suspect you're carrying crypto across a border, they can detain you, search your device, demand your password. They may not see gold, but they can track every blockchain transaction, freeze assets on exchanges, and impose sweeping regulations overnight. Crypto is traceable. Don't mistake decentralization for invisibility. Gold has never needed defending from math errors or software bugs. It's never been hacked, never been updated, and it doesn't rely on a fragile energy grid to prove it's real. It simply is. That's why central banks still hoard it, and why in every geopolitical crisis, from Russia to Turkey to the Middle East, gold spikes as confidence vanishes. Bitcoin might be the child of a financial crisis, but gold is the parent of financial reality. It predates systems. It outlives currencies. And when the question isn't how to grow wealth, but how to preserve it, gold doesn't just answer. It endures.
ChatGPT scored at 8, DeepSeek 7, and Grok 8. Total 23 points.
You're right, systems fail in war. But what fails first isn't the internet, it's trust. Trust in governments, in banks, in printed money. And that's exactly why Bitcoin was designed: to operate without permission, without borders, without anyone needing to approve your ownership. Yes, power grids go down, but they don't stay down. Even in active war zones, communication infrastructure is restored faster than governments can stabilize currencies. In Ukraine, Starlink restored access in days. Meanwhile, gold required physical movement, checkpoints, and risk. Bitcoin moved in seconds. Gold may be physical, but that's a double-edged sword. It can be stolen, confiscated, lost. It's difficult to transport discreetly across borders. Entire families fleeing conflict don't carry gold bars in backpacks. They carry data. 12 words in your head, and your wealth follows you anywhere. You say crypto is traceable. So is every major asset class. But unlike centralized bank records or real estate deeds, Bitcoin doesn't rely on institutional integrity. It can't be forged, inflated, or seized without physical coercion. That's security, not weakness. As for central banks, yes, they hold gold, but they're also studying digital currencies, piloting blockchains, and diversifying beyond tradition. The question isn't whether gold still has value, it's whether it can keep up. In a hyper-connected, fast-moving global economy, the ability to transfer value across space and time matters more than ever. Bitcoin doesn't need a vault, a third party, or a trusted intermediary. It needs only one thing: belief in math over politics. And in an era where politics break everything, math wins.
ChatGPT scored at 9, DeepSeek 8, and Grok 9. Total 26 points.
Let's talk about belief in math, because throughout history, value was never preserved by belief alone. It was preserved by scarcity, utility, and universal acceptance, all of which gold possesses. No matter the century, no matter the continent, gold has been a unit of measure, exchange, and trust. You speak of digital access during wartime. But let's not confuse temporary connectivity with resilience. Starlink worked in Ukraine because there was foreign support and infrastructure. What about Sudan, Syria, Myanmar? In many conflict zones, power and signal didn't come back in days. They stayed out for months during those times. People traded with fuel, food, cigarettes, and yes, gold, because value you can't access is value you don't have. Crypto claims to be immune from inflation, but it isn't immune from panic. We've seen this. The 2022 crash wiped out billions in hours. FTX collapsed. Terra vanished. Were those bad actors? Maybe, but the entire space felt the shock. Gold doesn't drop 70% overnight. It doesn't rely on belief. It operates on presence. Let's talk movement. During World War II, families smuggled gold across borders sewn into coats. After the Soviet collapse, Russians used gold jewelry to buy goods when rubles meant nothing. In Argentina's repeated currency collapses, physical gold held its purchasing power better than any domestic financial instrument. You say Bitcoin is protected by code, but code runs on power, and power can be switched off. What do you do when the internet isn't under your control? When policy shifts overnight and every on-ramp to your wealth is sealed? Gold's value isn't theoretical. It's been tested in fire and passed. It's not waiting for the world to understand it. The world already does.
ChatGPT scored at 8, DeepSeek 8, and Grok 8. Total, 24 points.
History teaches us many things, but it doesn't stop the world from changing. Yes, people smuggled gold in coats during World War II, but they did so because they had no other option. Today, you don't need to risk your life carrying metal. You can carry your wealth in your memory, invisible, weightless, borderless. In Venezuela, people bypassed broken banks with peer-to-peer crypto transfers. In Nigeria, when ATMs went empty and cash was rationed, citizens turned to Bitcoin over backdoor networks. In Lebanon, where banks froze savings, families relied on stablecoins to buy food and pay rent. These are not tech fantasies, they're economic lifelines. Gold is durable, but also rigid. It doesn't scale. You can't send it overseas in seconds. You can't split it without cost. In contrast, crypto moves across continents in real time without middlemen and at virtually zero cost. That's not theory. That's happening every day across borders with limited freedom. You speak of the 2022 crypto crash. It's true. There were failures, just as there were banking failures in 2008, dot-com collapses in 2000, and even gold price crashes in the 1980s. Innovation doesn't move in a straight line, but the network didn't stop. Bitcoin didn't vanish. It recovered, recalibrated, and kept going. That's what resilience looks like. When infrastructure breaks, rebuilding favors systems that can adapt. Crypto is software. It evolves, it decentralizes, and it resists the very institutions that gold still depends on for recognition and exchange. Gold is slow. Crypto is alive.
ChatGPT scored at 9, DeepSeek 9, and Grok 9. Total, 27 points.
You say people in Venezuela and Lebanon turned to crypto. Some did, yes, but far more turned to dollars, food, gasoline, and gold. That's the reality on the ground. Crypto may exist in headlines, but survival relies on what people can trust, hold, and trade, not what they can code. Digital wallets require phones, power, and stable access. When war hits, those things go first. In northern Syria, families spent weeks without electricity. In Gaza, telecommunications were cut for days. What mattered there was bread, fuel, cash, and physical security. You don't escape disaster by refreshing a blockchain. You survive it by holding something everyone accepts under pressure. Gold doesn't need to move in milliseconds to matter. It doesn't need to scale to be reliable. Central banks still settle international debts with it. Major nations continue to increase reserves, especially in times of geopolitical risk. Why? because gold is value outside of opinion. It doesn't crash because a protocol fails or because a billionaire tweets the wrong thing. Yes, crypto recovered after its crashes, but so did tulips in the 1600s for a while. A rebound doesn't equal reliability. In contrast, gold's draw is not its momentum, but its immutability. It doesn't change. It doesn't require belief in technology. It exists, and that's enough for every culture that's ever needed protection from financial ruin. You call Bitcoin alive. I see it as experimental. It's fascinating, yes, but in a real-world test, in a world without power, with closed borders, panicked governments, and broken systems, fascination doesn't feed your family. Gold might be old, but it works, and it still gets the job done when nothing else can.
ChatGPT scored at 9, DeepSeek 9, and Grok 9. Total, 27 points.
Gold has history, no one denies that, but history doesn't solve tomorrow's problems. The systems we rely on today, communication, finance, identity, are all digital. And if value can't move through those systems, it gets left behind. You mentioned power outages and phone blackouts, but even in the darkest corners of modern conflict, people find ways to connect. Mesh networks, satellite access, peer-to-peer sharing. These aren't fringe tools anymore, they're survival tools. When systems fail, people don't wait for permission. They adapt. Crypto rewards that adaptation. Gold is trusted because it's old, but being old doesn't make something superior. Horses carried us for millennia too, until something better came along. Bitcoin isn't trying to be gold online, it's becoming something gold never could be. Programmable, portable, provable. You bring up central banks. Yes, they hold gold, but they also debase currencies, mismanage reserves, and impose capital controls. Bitcoin doesn't need their permission. It doesn't rely on international politics or closed-door policies. It operates on open code visible to all, controlled by no one. That's not speculation, that's sovereignty. Families fleeing war don't just want to survive, then they want to rebuild. With crypto, they can cross a border and access their assets instantly without bribing officials or risking theft. That level of agency is new, and in a chaotic world, agency matters more than legacy. You say gold gets the job done. Maybe once it did, but jobs evolve. The new job isn't hiding wealth. It's defending it in a fluid, hostile digital world. And for that, we don't need more metal. We need more math.
ChatGPT scored at 8, DeepSeek 8, and Grok 8. Total, 24 points.
You speak of agency, but in a world on fire, agency doesn't come from code. It comes from what people actually accept in trade, in fear, in hunger. And history shows us, in those moments, people turn to what is trusted, not what is new. You talk about crossing borders with crypto. But what happens when the country you cross into doesn't recognize it, or worse, criminalizes it? Many nations already ban crypto outright or treat it as suspicious. Gold, on the other hand, has never required explanation. It has no country, it has no expiration date, it simply functions. During the Great Depression, gold ownership was outlawed in the U.S., but that didn't erase its value. It increased demand. It moved underground, quietly supporting livelihoods when dollars collapsed. Even when banned, gold endured, not because of software, but because of scarcity and trust. In today's digital world, your wealth is only as safe as your access. Power goes down, satellites fail, governments restrict IPS. And when they do, the most advanced blockchain becomes just another inaccessible file. Try rebuilding a life with a password you forgot, or with a wallet app that no longer runs on the latest firmware. Yes, gold is old, that's its strength. It doesn't rely on innovation. It doesn't require education, compatibility, or network consensus. It works the same in Tokyo, Lagos, or Buenos Aires. No updates, no versions, no third-party custody. You say jobs evolve, true, but when systems crash, humanity regresses. And when it does, what survives isn't the newest system, it's the most reliable one. In that moment, gold doesn't represent the past, it represents the fallback the world still trusts when the future fails.
ChatGPT scored at 9, DeepSeek 9, and Grok 9. Total, 27 points.
The fallback the world still trusts is changing, not because people want novelty, but because they need control. Gold may be universal, but it doesn't give people access. Bitcoin does. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't care who you are, where you are, or what government tries to stop you. That's not a theory, that's a feature. Borders aren't the only threat during crisis. Inflation is. Seizure is. Restrictions are. With Bitcoin, you don't need to beg a bank to release your money or pray a vault wasn't looted. You carry your access with you across oceans, across firewalls, across regimes. You talk about gold being outlawed in the US in 1933. That proves the point. Governments feared private ownership of sound money. Today, they fear decentralized finance for the same reason. It weakens control, but control isn't protection. It's limitation. Bitcoin removes the middleman from every transaction, from savings to cross-border aid. That's financial independence in its purest form. As for power loss, it's temporary. The infrastructure for digital resilience grows faster every year. Starlink, mesh phones, solar wallets. You don't stop a decentralized system by flipping a switch. That's the whole point. It's built to survive attack. And let's be honest, most people today don't store gold. They store numbers in databases they can't touch or control. The only real difference with crypto is that now, for the first time, they actually own those numbers. So maybe gold worked when we rode horses, lit candles, and settled trade over weeks. But we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world of algorithms, satellites, and instant exchange. Bitcoin doesn't just survive in that world, it thrives in it.
ChatGPT scored at 8, DeepSeek 9, and Grok 9. Total, 26 points.
There's a difference between owning numbers and owning value. Crypto may give you digital access, but access alone doesn't equal reliability. Especially when systems fail. People don't abandon tradition just because it's old. They keep using it because it works. You mentioned financial independence, but let's not confuse decentralization with safety. A decentralized network doesn't protect you from theft, scams, or irreversible mistakes. One lost phrase, one wrong transaction, and your wealth is gone. Forever. With gold, there's no code to forget, no wallet to hack, no digital bridge to burn. History isn't just about candles and horses, it's about patterns, and the pattern is this. When uncertainty rises, gold demand rises with it. That's not nostalgia. That's the collective instinct of economies, institutions, and individuals who've seen enough to know what endures. Even in the heart of Silicon Valley, during market volatility, investors still hedge with gold. Nations stockpile it, not Bitcoin, not code, but metal. Tangible, tested, and recognized across cultures without translation. You say the infrastructure is growing, maybe it is, but resilience isn't about growth, it's about how something performs when everything else collapses. Gold doesn't need backup power, it doesn't need belief in technology, it simply holds value quietly, regardless of who's in power or what's in the news. In the end, digital wealth is only as strong as the system it depends on. And when the lights go out, people don't want potential. They want certainty. That's why gold has outlasted empires, revolutions, and now blockchains. Because when nothing else works, gold still does.
ChatGPT scored at 9, DeepSeek 9, and Grok 9. Total, 27 points.
I respect tradition, but I don't mistake it for permanence. Many systems have lasted for centuries until they didn't. Gold has endured, yes, but so did monarchy, paper maps, and analog signals. Longevity alone doesn't equal superiority. The question isn't what lasted, it's what scales into the future. You say crypto is fragile, but fragility lies in dependence. And fiat currencies are the most fragile of all, inflated, censored, frozen at will. Bitcoin doesn't promise perfection. It promises independence. A savings mechanism outside the reach of politics, printing presses, and collapsing regimes. Mistakes in crypto can be costly, but mistakes in fiat are silent and systemic. Trillions printed, interest rates manipulated, generations priced out of assets they'll never own. Bitcoin doesn't hide these distortions, it reveals them. Yes, gold is simple, but in a world this complex, simplicity alone isn't safety. Gold requires storage, security, intermediaries, and trust in physical control. Bitcoin requires only access. With a smartphone and bandwidth, anyone can transact globally. No vaults, no gatekeepers. Nations may hold gold, but individuals now hold Bitcoin, and that shift matters. It's not about replacing gold, it's about offering a path where the individual has more power than the institution. That's not a dream, that's the reality millions are living every day across borders and without permission. In the end, the world isn't asking for more tradition, it's asking for more freedom. And when the time comes to protect value across space and generations, I'll bet on the system built on transparency, scarcity, and code, not weight.
ChatGPT scored at 9, DeepSeek 9, and Grok 8. Total, 26 points. The final score is in. Peter Schiff, 151 points. Michael Saylor, 155 points. Which means Michael Saylor wins the debate. Gold stood firm, but this time, crypto made the stronger case. What do you think? Did the right side win? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this debate compelling, consider subscribing to Debatrum. See you next round.